Hey everyone! So, another week, another chapter of My Hero Academia, and for this video, we're going to break down Chapter 313 of the series. This chapter is a continuation of the fight between Deku and the high-range mobile cannon named Lady Nagant. And look, if you're anime only, or if you just straight up don't read the manga, the content of this video is almost 2 years ahead of the current arc in the anime. Long story short is, spoilers. Lots and lots and lots of spoilers. So, this is your warning. And if you're new to the channel, welcome! Thanks for coming through. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Dan Exclaims greatness, and if you want to become one of the regulars here at the bar, hit that notification bell. That way, you never miss a premiere. And to those in the premiere right now, thanks for coming by. Now, let's open this biddy up and grab ourselves a drink. Alright, welcome to the bar, folks. So, before we get to today's breakdown, I want to thank every single person that's been coming from YouTube to my Twitch stream. Yeah, a lot of the times I'm playing a game that's about 20 years old, but yesterday, Ninja showed up to my stream. Yeah, that ninja showed up. So it was kind of surreal to have the guy that is like, the guy that's really famous for playing video games show up in my stream. So if you guys have that inkling that you want to get out there and start streaming, just do it. If you're playing video games, you might as well just do it anyway. But either way, thank you all for coming out to my streams week in and week out. And if you want to catch one of my Twitch streams, be sure to hit the link down below and throw me a follow. So where were we? Oh yeah. Chapter 313. Okay, if there's one thing about this chapter that I need to point out, it's that the series as a whole is really not pulling its punches anymore. It's been over a month since the Vigilante Deku arc began, and there's no signs of it slowing down. I mean, I see on Twitter all the time people putting up graphics like hashtag no Bakugo or hashtag no UA, and I hate to say it, but I'm totally fine with it, because it's Deku's story in the end, and it's time for him to become that main protagonist that we all need to stand for, and that kinda comes with him dominating screen time. I mean, with Deku's supporting cast now consisting of all of the users of One For All, that's 8 characters that can just come out of nowhere to assist our boy, and that includes All Might, because, for today's breakdown, we're really going to focus on All Might's first fight as Small Might and Deku's new quirk, Fa Jin. And personally, this one might be my favorite quirk out of the bunch, because the diversity of it is just amazing. So, you know what, let's just head over to the wall now and talk about the chapter. Alright, so first things first, our boy Small Might. We saw back in chapter 311 that he was being attacked by the cronies of Lady Nagant, and in this chapter we see that the Might-mobile is actually named Hercules, and it wasn't very Herculean at all because after 2 weird exploding javelins appear and pierce the windshield, the Batmobile pretty much goes kaput. So as for the scene itself, this is the first fight that All Might has been in since the one against All For One, and granted, even though it's against 2 low-level villains who are like, okay, it's just All Might but he's all small and fragile, you still gotta remember that this is All Might here. If he still wants to have his intimidating presence, he can still turn it on. His body may have withered, but his soul is still exactly the same, because when it comes to protecting this student, he has a promise that he intends to keep. Despite everything that is going on, Inko has put a lot of trust in All Might, and granted, Deku was gonna do this thing whether she acknowledged it or not. But All Might was the one who stepped in the way and said that if you're gonna go out there and put your life on the line, you're crazy if you don't think that I'm gonna be out there standing right next to you the entire time. And to be quite honest, I'm pretty excited to see him take on some bad guys for the first time in a couple of years. The last time we saw All Might throw a smash was when he did a little bit of a love tap to Deku after the fight against All For One. You could check that out right here when I did a video for Funimation last year. Just click the card above. Now, I was kind of drawing a blank as to how All might fight back. And that's when a person in my comments appeared and was like, hey Dan, what do you think about that briefcase that All Might has? And that's when it dawned upon me that he could totally possibly have an exoskeleton or like a suit of armor akin to Iron Man. Deku did get quite a few armaments that came in from America, so I wouldn't be surprised if Melissa or even David, if he's out of prison, provided All Might with the means to help out beyond being just a driver. Either way, like I said, it's been a long time since we've seen All Might jump right back into action, so I think that this could be a pretty welcoming surprise to see see him do his thing for the first time in a couple of years. And I would say that the biggest thing is the fact that these two guys right here are underestimating the ex-number 1 hero. Besides the fact that he's the 8th successor of One For All, let's not count the old man down and out just because he lost his car. And if I were to just kind of compare it to something, losing his car is just a straight up homage to Batman losing the Batmobile. But now that he has that suitcase, my guess is it's time to wrap up the Batman reference and refer to an Iron Man reference. Cause look, just because he's Small Might doesn't mean he's forgotten how to fight. So I think it's quite possible that these two guys are in for a beating of a lifetime by the ex-number 1 hero. And I think the true motive here is to actually just stall All Might enough. These guys don't really have to win the fight, but Lady Nagant certainly needs to win the fight so she can bring in Deku, and then All Might will arrive on scene and just be like, oh no, my student is missing. And if there's one thing to take away, it's that All Might still has that intimidating presence. But that's really only the beginning of the chapter, because right when this scene ends, we move right back to Deku fighting against Lady Nagant. And I do have to give Deku some credit here, because after being shot from a pretty illogical angle, he puts 2 and 2 together really quickly and realizes that this chick was handed a quirk. Now that she's out here airwalking, she's become a highly mobile cannon, and that provides Deku with no means to escape her shots. But what Horikoshi shows us in this chapter is that Deku is ready to pull out all the stops to take down a villain, especially if that particular villain will help him get closer to Shigaraki and All For One. I mean, when he gets shot, his analytical processes start firing off immediately, like he's able to dissect her entire motive of attack after he slips up and gets clipped one time. I mean, in the beginning, Deku thought that he was going to be able to do this quick and subtly, but now that she's moving fast enough that the 4th user of One For All's quirk can't even keep up, he needs to change his direction of attack. And the big takeaway from this particular scene is now Deku is wounded. He got shot in the stomach. So now he's got to do anything that he possibly can to end this fight as quickly as possible and perform some triage. And the first thing he does is try to provide some cover for himself. So he smashes into the ground, firing off this huge smoke screen from the 6th user of One For All's quirk. And Deku's constant abusal of the smoke screen quirk causes N to show up another time, just to let him know that he overdid it once again. And to be quite honest, the way that N looks, I wasn't expecting him to be so vocal. But it tells me that when Deku decides to activate a quirk of the past successors, that gives them the window to walk through and talk to Deku as the 9th. And the reason why I say this is because after the massive smokescreen quirk appears, he starts doing like squats, kind of. And immediately, the 6th user of One For All, who's amongst the smokescreen, is like, whoa, calm down. Nah, not this. There are other things to be using right now to get out of this situation. And from the smoke, another vestige appears. It's the 3rd user of One For All, and he tells Deku that his quirk has not been practiced enough to become one of his parallel processes. And before even using it, he's gonna need to get a feel for it, because now it appears time for Deku to unleash the 3rd user of One For All's quirk, and his 4th quirk, Fajin. And according to the official My Hero Academia wiki, and shout out to the people who constantly work to update it with accessible information for tubers like I, they say that it's a kinetic energy quirk. Now, when I originally googled Fajin, in general, pictures of Neji using Gentle Fist appeared, and images of Bruce Lee were kind of mixed in as well. This led me to believe that Fajin might be a martial arts quirk, and the one that we've been waiting for Deku to obtain. Now, I'm sorry to break from the chapter for a second, but we gotta break down this quirk because of how cool it is, and the potential for it is just so amazing. Like, let's say this, taking hits doesn't appear to increase that kinetic energy, kind of like Black Panther's suit, but repetitive motion tends to be the thing that increases it. Now, fighters that relied on built-up kinetic energy were people like Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali. They were fighters who were light on their toes, flowing, waiting for the opportune time to strike, and then they used their built-up momentum to deliver a crushing right cross if you're Muhammad Ali, or put a sidekick out and throw you on your ass like Bruce Lee. So personally, I really need to see a bouncing Deku square up and ready to brawl, because more or less, he kinda has overclock light right now. Anywho, during the massive blast of smoke, Nagant is searching for Deku within that cloud, and after various shots are missed by Deku using Black Whip to take his various pieces of gear and make it look like an escape, Nagant didn't realize that Deku already left the smokescreen and went inside of a building. From there, he takes his built-up kinetic energy and fires through the building, and then the next thing Nagant knows, Deku has her in pretty much what looks like an armbar. Now, I've referenced this before in previous videos, but my boy Vocal Pineapple made a video a couple of years ago talking about what if Deku had MMA skills that I encourage you all to check out, because Jesus, it was pretty spot on. Deku looks like he's about to yank her damn arm off, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. And I really don't know if I can make an assumption that Nagant is going to do some wild shit and shake Deku off, but this panel wasn't very telling for her. Also, I want to go back and talk about Deku's driven determination because it's kinda scary. The face that Deku gives here when he talks about hunting down All For One and Shigaraki is kind of concerning. One of the things that made Batman unrelatable and Nightwing more relatable was the ability for Nightwing to grow outside of his trauma. In the previous arc, Deku was almost killed by Shigaraki, and in turn, he's developed a grudge against All For One that most users of One For All sympathize with. But at the speed that he's moving, it's only a matter of time before Deku slips up and gets himself seriously injured once again. He landed himself in the hospital last time, and for all intents and purposes, this arc takes place pretty much immediately after he's been released from the hospital. And within that amount of time, he's already copped himself a nice fresh gunshot wound to the stomach. And by no means am I jinxing Deku here, but I really think that Nagant has probably dealt with people closing the gap, so it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. To a degree, 313 was kind of predictable, but chapter 314 is really up in the air as to what's going to happen next, because the cliffhanger has us thinking that Deku has Nagant in his clutches. And to be quite honest, I'd be fine if they kind of took a break from this fight real quick and went back to All Might to see what was inside of that briefcase, because if it is an Iron Man suit, I really need to see that thing in action. Though as for the fight against Nagant, I think Deku is going a little bit too ham, and it might result in him losing the fight. I still think that if Lady Nagant is known for being a traitor, there's a chance that she still might betray All For One. I mean, she did say that once upon a time, he was her target, so whether or not it was the Hero Association telling her to kill All For One, or if she has a grudge against him, there's more to this character than meets the eye. Deku was pretty spot on when he called out her shots as maiming shots instead of kill shots, so it's going to be interesting to see if chapter 314 is the end of the fight, or if it's just the beginning and Deku ends up being captured. All Might fighting those two thugs on the side of the road though just acts as stalling him like I said previously. He'll probably defeat him, and by the time he gets there, who knows if Deku's been kidnapped. And like I said in a previous video, I would really like to find out that Lady Nagant was betrayed by the Safety Commission. The Commission already felt sketchy to me, and it's about time they just follow through with them being a piece of shit organization. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this week's chapter breakdown. If I missed anything in particular, like Overhaul missing from the entire chapter, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. And I really do think that Lady Nagant has an ulterior motive, so if you do as well, be sure to let me know your theory down below. And as for the viewer video, it looks like the winner of the poll is gonna be what I think Deku's dad is up to and why he hasn't appeared in the story so far. So that'll be coming out in the coming weeks. So if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to throw up a like. And until next time, I'll catch y'all later. Cheers.